Our Father, who art in heaven, as a body we congregate in this council chamber for all the betterment of our fellow citizens. Lead us that we may do all things well. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke?
Present.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Here.
Mr. Schultmeyer?
Present.
Mr. Bob Culberson?
Here.
Mrs. Benninghouse?
Here.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Here. Let the record show 6 members are present and 1 member is absent. We're going to suspend with a regular order of business, and we are going to introduce to council tonight Dante Johnson. He is running for judge for our district, and he would like to address council. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, ma'am. Just step to the podium right here.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to have the opportunity to speak to you all here today. I wanted to stop by and introduce myself to you all. Again, I am Dante Johnson, and I am running for judge of municipal court for District 2, which includes St. Bernard. I'm endorsed by the Democratic Party, and I'm the only candidate endorsed by the Democratic Party running for a judge this year. I'm from Cincinnati. I grew up in the West End, and just right around the corner in Avondale, we would often come to St. Bernard and play at the basketball courts, which were state-of-the-art for us. You know, it was wonderful. Go to the Subway over there. It was a Save-A-Lot. We used to do all those things, and the IGA was shopping there, so I'm very familiar with St. Bernard. I think it's a wonderful community. I'm a Cincinnati Public School graduate also from Clark Montessori. I'm an HBCU graduate from Howard University and a graduate of the University of Cincinnati College of Law. I've been an attorney for over 10 years now. Most of my career has been spent as a defense attorney. I spent a significant portion of my career at the Public Defender's Office, first in the municipal court and then in the common police court. After several years as a defender, I joined the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority as in-house counsel. While I was there, I fought to make sure that the residents had safe living conditions. If there was a resident that was causing trouble or issues for the community, we did everything we needed to do to get them separate housing and remove them from our program. But we also did everything we could to keep our residents there. Fought very hard to cut the eviction docket in half, even before the pandemic placed restrictions on us. And I also fought to bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars in tenant assistance for our residents. Currently, I'm in private practice for myself, where I focus mainly on criminal defense because that's my foundation. But I also do plaintiffs litigation and probate law. And I'm running for judge to make sure that everyone that comes before me and comes before our court gets equal treatment under the law, and to make sure that our community is protected. Municipal court covers initial felony arraignments, misdemeanor crimes, and civil cases where the dispute is less than $15,000. And I think there are some reforms that we can put in place to make our county safer, make St. Bernard safer, and make it a better community for everyone. And one of those things is probation reform. I'm going to help the people who come before me. If it's somebody who didn't graduate from high school, I'm going to help them get their GED. If it's somebody that's not working, that's a good candidate for a trade program, I'm going to help them enter and complete that trade program. I'm endorsed by several of the labor unions, including the iron workers, and they've told me that they're working on a program called Handcuffs to Hard Hats, where they'll be training people in jail and in prison, so once they're released, they can immediately go to work for them, and then make $18, $19 an hour. Then eventually, once they finish the trade, make $50 an hour. So that's a terrific program, and that's something that we can do to reduce recidivism and reduce violence in our community by giving people opportunities. If somebody's making $100,000 a year, they have no need to be in trouble or mess around, make a foul of the law. So thank you all for having me here, and I ask for your support in November, and I will stay for a few minutes if anybody has questions of me. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anybody have any questions? Okay.
Good to go?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of council, what is your pleasure of the reading of the minutes of the last meeting?
Mr. President, or Madam President, Make a motion to suspend with the reading of the minutes for last meetings.
I'll second that, Madam President.
Motion by Mr. DeBerke, second by Ms. Hausfeld to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any remarks? If there are no remarks, all those in favor of dispensing of the reading signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So ordered. Member of council, are there any errors or corrections to the minutes submitted? If not, the minutes will stand as submitted. So we'll start with reports of city officials. Mayor Jonathan Stuchel.
I'd be glad to allow Ms. Kelly to go ahead of me, or did you want to?
No, actually,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
I talked to her, thank you.
All
But
right.
thanks for that invitation.
Got it, all right. Thank you, Madam President. The St. Bernard CIC will be hosting the final community engagement event for the proposed redevelopment of the St. Bernard Square Shopping Center on Tuesday, September 28th at 6 p.m. in the main hall of the municipal building. For those who are not able to attend in person, the event will be available for viewing on the Village Facebook page, and it will also be available on ICRC's live feed as well. Anyone wishing to participate via Zoom will need to pre-register, and you will be able to ask questions that will be answered by our host/moderator. All of the links to either view or participate are available on the Village website. We will make every effort to answer all of the questions from those people who are participating via Zoom, but if we are not able to do so, I will personally make myself available where questions can be forwarded to me at mayor@cityofstbernard.org, or you can call me on my cell at 543-3780, and we will try to address that as soon as possible. I'll leave the announcement of the 5:30 meeting to Mr. Culberson, so I don't want to take all of his thunder here. But also, I would like to thank Officer Brendan Blair for his brief service to the village, as he has decided to further his career in fire service. We have extended a conditional offer to an excellent candidate, and she will hopefully be starting very soon. With the most recent job offer, we have exhausted our current eligibility list for the position of patrol officer, and the official request by the hiring authority has been made to the Civil Service Commission to test for that position. On Friday night is Roger Bacon's homecoming, and the Spartans will host Norwood at 7 p.m. The homecoming parade will begin roughly at 5:15. On Saturday, the St. Bernard Elmwood Place Titans will host Cincinnati Country Day at 7 p.m., so come out and support our local teams this weekend. There will also be a great fundraiser that will be held this Saturday in the Pavilion from 6 to 11 p.m. to celebrate the life of Allison Estep. Allison's dance will benefit Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and her family is hoping to reach their goal of raising $100,000 in her memory. More details are available on Facebook. The St. Bernard Recreation Department will be hosting their Bengals Community Tailgate on Thursday, September 30th at Vine Street Park Pavilion to come watch the Bengals take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. The game starts at 8:20 and the gates will open at 6:30. Bring your own chairs and drinks, and hot dogs will be provided while they last. The St. Bernard Annual Halloween Campout will take place on Friday, October 8th and Saturday, October 9th in Lower Ross Park. Activities will again include DJs, Halloween costume contest, trunk-or-treating, movies, a fire pit, and more. Campsites will approximately be 30 by 30 with a limited number of RV spots with no electric or water hookups available. Campers will be responsible for their own setup, cleanup, food, and drinks. Residents can reserve their spots by emailing recreation@cityofstbernard.org or calling 641-3137. The Saturday night costume contest and trick-or-treat is open to anyone in the community, so come and enjoy. Further details will be announced, and this event has been cleared through the Hamilton County Health Department. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor Stuchel. Auditor, Ms. Brickway.
Thank you, Madam President. The Auditor's Office would like to ask Council to please place Resolution 5, 2021 on the table for tonight. This resolution is accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. This is basically after we did the summer budget, we sent it into the county. They looked at all of our numbers, and the schedule that you see on the back is what they came up with. So you just basically need to approve these, and I just received these a couple days ago, and they need to be approved in September. So I'd like to ask you to put that on the table. I'd also like to ask to be put on the committee of the whole to discuss line item 8A2 and 2K2. The one is the safety center and the other one is miscellaneous. We're having a lot of issues with air conditioning at the safety center, and we're having a lot of issues with, as you can see, the buckets running around the place with roof leakage in various buildings. So we will discuss how much we need in those line items. And the reason I put miscellaneous on there is if something happens within the next month, we're going to have to use that money to make sure the repairs get made. So I would just like to put that on the agenda, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Brigway.
Madam President,
Oh,
make a motion for Resolution 5 on the table tonight.
I'll second that.
motion been made to put resolution on the table number 5, resolution number 5 by Don and seconded by Ray. All in favor? Say aye. Those opposed? It'll be on the table for a vote tonight.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to go into executive session after the meeting this evening to talk about ongoing litigation. Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Taberky?
make a motion to go executive session, end of the meeting, discuss pending litigation.
I'll second that, Madam President. Sorry.
Motion made by Mr. Berkey, second by Ms. Hausfeld to go into executive session to discuss ongoing litigation. All in favor, say aye.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Oh, roll call, sorry. Mr. Taberky, oh, you do.
I'll do it. Mr. DeBerkey.
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culverson.
Aye.
Mrs. Schultmire. Mr. Schultmire.
Aye. Roll tonight.
Mr. Bob Culverson.
Aye.
Mrs. Benninghaus.
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld.
Aye.
All in favor, we're going to executive session following the meeting. Treasurer is not here. Mr. Ungary, anybody have a report? Oh. No report. Thank you, John. Safety and Service Director, Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Madam President. We have another sinkhole on Tower Avenue. MSD will be taking care of that soon. Spring Grove Avenue painting will start as soon as we dry out a little bit more. Ford Development has Delmar Court sidewalk repair on their agenda, along with the 3 basins, 2 on Bank Street and 1 on Baker. To my community, how many times have we wondered, what happened? Then responded, well, that wasn't supposed to happen. Sometimes it is happy occurrence, others, though, not so welcoming events. However, if we learn as though the next try is our last, make it work. Live as though time is running out. Finish that bucket list, then put more on it. And love as though it is the only thing that matters, whatever it may be. This will surely make our existence a lot easier to endure. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Tax Commissioner Administrator, Ms. Helms.
Thank you, Madam President. Recap from August tax collections, they were $801,590. The 2021 third quarter tax statements will be mailed out the week of October 4th. Please return your payment with the coupon that'll be attached. It has a special barcode that identifies your tax account. 2020 tax extensions expire on October 15th, 2021. If you do not have a copy of your federal extension with your tax return, you may be charged late fees. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Helms. We'll go on to reports of standing committees. Finance, Mr. Taberky.
Thank you, Madam President. Tuesday, October 7th at 7 p.m., I'll be hosting a Meet the Candidate Night, upper level of the municipal building. All 3 judge candidates and the 3 school board candidates have indicated they will attend. All council has been invited. Brandy Schultmire will MC the evening. I will allow the judicial candidates to give a brief biography and then field questions. Then the school board candidates will be introduced and field any questions of them. The unopposed council candidates will be introduced. Then the 5 council-at-large candidates will be given 3 minutes each to present their biography. Then we'll field questions from the audience. And I will be contacting ICRC tomorrow to see if they can broadcast the event. That concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Taberky. Safety, Mr. Ray Culberson.
Thanks, Madam President. Have the fire department report for August. There were a total of 49 fire incidents, which included 8 structure fires and 3 hazmat incidents. Mutual aid was given to Norwood 3 times, Elmwood Place 8, Little Miami twice, Springfield Township once, Wyoming once, Cincinnati once, and North College Hill once. Mutual aid was received from Cincinnati once, Springfield Township once, Norwood once, Little Miami once, and Wyoming once. EMS, there were a total of 117 EMS incidents, which included 4 non-breathers, 4 unconscious, 6 auto accidents, and 3 overdoses. Mutual aid was given to Norwood 5 times, Wyoming once, and Cincinnati once. The Elmwood Police contractual incidents, where there were a total of 27 in August. The next block watch meeting will be Thursday, October 21st at 6:30 p.m. in the main level of the municipal building. Service Department employee Bill Helton will lead a presentation on the recycling program. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Culberson. Service, Mr. Schultmeyer.
No report this week, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Schultmeyer. Public Improvements, Bob Culberson.
Thank you, Madam President. This Tuesday, the CIC is going to meet at a special time at 5:30. That's before the community involvement meeting afterwards to discuss the square. So I suggest everybody attend both meetings if possible. Also, I just want to take a moment. I was unfortunately unable to be here during the CAL meeting last time. And I was able to watch the replay, and I was kind of, a little taken back by the meeting and didn't want to, come across as, I think someone put causing a panic about my post about the incident at Vine Street Park. Just to clarify, on Monday night, and Tuesday night, what was communicated to the family of the person involved in this act was, this group that was from a different part of town was known to the officers and had been, causing mischief in the area for the last 2 years, and that there was a potential gun that they saw on a camera there, and it was relayed to the family that, luckily, the gun wasn't presented or anything became, more severe. So that's why I put out my post on keeping St. Bernard informed, because I know a lot of kids use that park, and God forbid if I knew something like that and, didn't share that with the residents, and something, God forbid, would have happened to a child on Wednesday, Thursday, or even Friday, I wasn't prepared to live with that on my conscience. So when the officer did and tell the family that, I felt it was appropriate to share. So, I do, I do want to, let the residents know, that was my whole purpose, was to keep you informed, not to cause an uproar, cause a panic. I do want to give a big shout out to Officer Prasky and Officer Blair, who I'm sad that he's leaving the department, who has kind of, been involved in the investigation. I think those 2 officers have done a bang-up job. So I have, nothing but great respect for those 2 officers, as well as the officers with Cincinnati Police and the other supporting agencies. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Culberson. For laws, contracts, and claims, that would be me. The resolution that was going to be put on the table tonight for vote, supporting an inclusive St. Bernard, will be deferred so we can discuss it at committee of whole. As we all just received it within the past week, there is information in here that we're just all reading through and would like the opportunity to discuss or ask questions. So we will be deferring that vote until the following council meeting, but we will be discussing it at the next committee of whole on October 14th. And that concludes my report. Business and Industry, Ms. Hausfeld. Or does anybody have any communication or report from Ms. Miller for marketing? Business and Industry, Ms. Hausfeld?
No report, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Hausfeld. Ms. Kathman, Committee of the Whole has been submitted?
Yes, Ms. President of Council.
Thank you, Ms. Kathman. Clerk, are there any communications?
No, Madam President.
Okay. So what we have on the table is one resolution. Clerk, could you please give the first reading of Resolution Number 5, 2021?
Resolution number 5, 2021. Resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
Members of council, you have heard the first reading of Resolution Number 5, 2021. What is your pleasure?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Taberky?
make a motion to dispense with second and third reading, Resolution 5, 2021.
I'll second it.
A motion by Mr. DeBerke, seconded by Mr. Ray Culberson to suspend with the second and third reading. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. DeBerke.
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson.
Aye.
Mr. Schultmeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culberson.
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse.
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes, no nays. Motion carries. Council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. DeBerke?
make a motion to adopt Resolution 5 to 2021.
I'll second that, Madam President.
A motion by Mr. DeBerke, seconded by Ms. Hausfeld, to adopt Resolution Number 5, 2021, is read. Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. DeBerke.
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson.
Aye.
Mr. Schultmeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culberson.
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse.
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays. Resolution Number 5, 2021 is adopted as read. And we have no ordinances on the table. So now we'll go to, does anyone on council have anything under old business?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. DeBerke?
Tom, you're talking about the roof here. That was just replaced 2-3 years ago, wasn't it?
Yes, Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Paul?
there's nothing wrong with the roof. It's actually a frozen air conditioner. That's what Peggy meant by
Okay.
more air conditioning. Yeah. So it's, it froze up quite a bit. We figured it would leak right down in front of the mayor's office, and no, it traveled across and dripped into the printing room also. So it's the same air conditioning, same leak, it just traveled, so.
Madam President, one more thing.
Yes, Mr. DeBerke?
On Delmore Court sidewalk, I walked up there the other day. Yes, the sidewalk needs to be replaced, but can we look at not replacing that side of the sidewalk, making the street a little wider? There's a small court there, U-shaped, horseshoe. They could walk down the other side of the street on the sidewalk, but give them a little more room on the street there.
Madam President?
Yes, Mr.
I'll
Paul?
have to look into it. And we are on their agenda, but I can call for development and tell them to hold for a minute to see what that'll entail, and how much it would be.
So, to me, it'd be worthwhile checking into. I mean, just a short street there.
Yeah. Okay, we can look into it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul and Mr. DeBerke. Anybody else have anything under old business?
Yes, Madam President.
Yes, Ms. Hausfeld?
Mr. Paul, I know you said something about the sinkhole on Tower Avenue, and I know about a month ago I had said something to you about the hole that's developing over on Burtis, and you said you were going to get with the proper people to, it's one of the round plates. Yeah, that thing. What he said. I was over there today and I noticed it's getting worse. That's why I didn't know. You said they were going to take care of it, but it hasn't
Madam
been.
President, so they obviously addressed the wrong one. So could you get an address for me so I can get them pinpoint it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's close to Burtis and Park Place. It's like right in that area there.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
And if not, I can always ride up there with you.
No, well, I'll get it this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul, Ms. Hausfeld. Anybody else have anything under new business?
Madam President?
Yes.
Just a reminder, not to remind something about your committee, but just a reminder for the viewing audience that on Wednesday, the 29th, the Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee will meet at 6:30 to discuss the short-term rental issue that we're having in the village. It's posted on the village calendar, but
Yeah.
just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you, Mr. Suchel. Is there
Madam
any?
President.
Yes, Ms. Hausfeld.
Yes, I had just informed everybody up here and out in the administration that I will be out of town for the Meet the Candidate night. But I do urge the citizens that my phone is always available if they ever have a question for me or want to know anything about me or how I stand on stuff, they can always call me. And my phone number is 513-288-6300. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hausfeld. Is there anybody else for under new business? If not, we'll move on to, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council? If so, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Stuchel, Madam President, members of council. Thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Bridget Kelly. I represent St. Bernard in the State House, so I am not a St. Bernard resident, but I do have the privilege of representing in the State House. So I just wanted to come and give a quick update on a couple things that are happening in the legislature, and also to talk a little bit about what's happening with the Ohio Fairness Act as it relates to your consideration of the non-discrimination ordinance here in St. Bernard. So I'm currently serving my third term in the Ohio State House. I serve on the State and Local Government Committee, the Government Oversight Committee, the Finance Committee, as well as the Transportation Subcommittee of Finance, and on the Ohio Retirement Study Council. So we tend to dip our toes into a lot of subject matter, both controversial and not. But I just wanted to give an update on a couple of the pressing things that were happening. So folks have probably seen a lot of information on redistricting because we are in the middle of that process, which takes place every 10 years. The process for drawing new legislative districts is finished for now. There was a lawsuit filed today regarding the districts, but as of right now, this very moment, St. Bernard is slated to be part of the new 26th State House district, which is not horribly dissimilar from where it is situated now. Right now, I represent essentially from North Side to Amberley, and then some small municipalities, including St. Bernard, Norwood, Columbia Township, Silverton. The new district will essentially be Coreyville, Walnut Hills East, all the way over to Mount Washington, including essentially the eastern side of the city of Cincinnati plus St. Bernard and Norwood. And I will be happy to provide you with as detailed a map as I can to go through some of that with you. Elmwood Place will be in the 25th House District, despite our best efforts to try to get you all together since you share a school district. So as of right now, it will be in the 26th House District. We are currently in the process of drawing new congressional lines, and that process was supposed to commence. We were supposed to be having hearings by September 30th. The Speaker of the House said that it is unlikely that we will meet that deadline. So that process is still ongoing. We just voted yesterday to authorize resources so that citizens can submit maps. I'm not sure that the website will stay the same, but it's redistricting.ohio.gov, redistricting.ohio.gov, and that's where you can get more information about that. Some other hot topics happening at the State House, about which I don't have a lot more updates because folks are still working through that, are discussions around vaccine policy for both businesses as well as public entities. The always exciting topic of sports wagering, which we are going into year 3 talking about. And, you know, folks are like, how did you even get into working on sports betting? Hopefully it's going to be a vehicle to provide more resources for kids in our state and to schools in our state. We are also getting ready to begin the capital budget process. So wanted to make sure you were aware of that. So there are any number of projects that qualify. We will be happy to work with you in our office to see if there are eligible projects for which St. Bernard might be eligible. This is a process that takes place beginning in January of the even-numbered years. So we'll be happy to work with you to get the information that we need so that St. Bernard could be considered for some capital funds in case you desire to be considered for those. I will also interject here as well as at the end and say if anyone needs to contact us, our email is rep31@ohiohouse.gov, rep31@ohiohouse.gov, or 614-466-5786. Lastly, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Ohio Fairness Act, because I know as you're going through the consideration of the non-discrimination resolution, I thought it might just be helpful to also provide some additional context for what's happening at the state. So the Ohio Fairness Act is bipartisan legislation that would protect LGBTQ plus Ohioans from discrimination in employment, housing, and other accommodations. A previous iteration of this bill was passed in 2009 with bipartisan support. So the bill that we're considering right now is bipartisan. That bill that passed was also bipartisan. In the last General Assembly, so 2 years ago, there was a similar piece of legislation introduced that had 3 hearings but didn't get a committee vote. In this latest iteration, which is House Bill 208, in case you'd like to go to ohiolegislature.gov, or for anybody at home that wants to check that out, where you can see the actual text of the legislation and follow it along in the process. You can see testimony, et cetera, as that's introduced. So that was introduced on March 16th, referred to the Commerce and Labor Committee, but hasn't had a hearing yet. So the Ohio Fairness Act specifies that any provision in the Ohio Revised Code respecting discrimination on the basis of sex includes discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity or expression. And it also adds mediation as an informal method by which compliance with the Ohio Civil Rights Commission law can be upheld. And again, this is bipartisan legislation that has been introduced a number of times in the State House. But one of the things that's a little bit that has evolved over time is the growth of support from the business community for this type of legislation. The majority of Ohio business owners who support adding LGBTQ plus non-discrimination to Ohio law is over 50% because it impacts their bottom lines. There is a group called Ohio Business Competes, which is a group of over 800 businesses that have backed the Ohio Fairness Act because it will help attract workers, increase investment, and grow our state's economy. And I will not make you sit through a recitation of all 800 businesses that are part of Ohio Business Competes, but I did think it would be helpful just to highlight a few. The Cincinnati Bar Association, Cincinnati USA Regional Chamber, GE Aviation, Kings Island, LexisNexis, Procter & Gamble, Fifth Third Bank, Nestle, Marriott, US Bank, Starbucks. So these are big businesses who are saying that this is important to attract the best talent and to get people to come here, to work here, to live here, and to stay here. We have a huge problem in Ohio with brain drain, and we hear it all the time, where folks come here, they go to great schools like the University of Cincinnati or that other place in Columbus, and then they think, where am I going to go next? And when they think, where am I going to go next, we want them to think, where are we going to go next in the state of Ohio? We want them to be able to stay here, and passing legislation like this is important. Now, why am I here talking about this instead of talking about this at the State House? Because it is unlikely that the state legislature is going to act on this type of legislation, which is why it's important that communities throughout the state and that local leaders really lead this charge and say, hey, this is important to help us grow inclusive, prosperous communities all across the state. So far, 32 municipalities and 1 county in Ohio have already passed non-discrimination ordinances. In this case, I know it's a resolution, and I hope that you will give strong consideration to St. Bernard being fit to join that group. I very much appreciate the opportunity to talk with you this evening about this myriad of issues, and I'm certainly always happy to be of service to any of you as leaders in your community, as well as to all of the constituents in St. Bernard, because it is a privilege to represent you in the State House. So again, Bridget Kelly, Rep 31 at ohiohouse.gov, 614-466-5786. I don't know if this is like the legislature where I say, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Bridget. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Kelly? I appreciate it.
Madam President?
Oh, yes.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to thank you for coming, and thank you for doing such a great job in representing us and keeping us informed. So thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for all the information. It's very helpful. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address council?
Hi, Amy Dottie, 220 McClelland. I actually was going to wait for maybe some other folks to speak up, but everything that I have to say pretty much follows everything that Ms. Kelly just spoke to. Many years ago, I stood up here addressing council alongside some of you, requesting that council do the right thing to keep the community safe. At the time, it was kind of for personal reasons. It was for the safety and service levy, and I believed in it then, and I still do. It didn't work out as well as I'd hoped at the time. My husband was one of the 8 city employees that were laid off. It has worked out since then. However, I distinctly remember standing up here with tons of people behind me, and we had hundreds of signatures of voters who wanted that levy to be increased to maintain the police, fire, and service departments that we had at the time. I didn't understand, and I still don't understand why that was ignored. The levy did pass with the smaller amount that it was, that was written into it. But as I said, 8 different employees lost their jobs that year. My husband and I still live here. We still rely on the same services. My children are lifelong residents. My husband's family is all from here. We care about this community. We still own our house. We still improve it. We still care about what's going on here. And that is why I am back here again requesting that that council can reconsider an ordinance of non-discrimination. There's a lot of opinions outside of St. Bernard that we're not a welcoming community, and that hurts as a resident. Kind of makes me want to stand up and, defend the community, but I don't have anything to support that defense. And I have not yet heard why a resolution is being pursued in place of an ordinance. A resolution seems empty to me. It does sound that way to other community members. The folks that would be protected by the non-discrimination ordinance, we live here. We're all around. I haven't seen a reason, I haven't heard a reason yet. Now, granted, I'm not at every meeting like I used to be, but I've asked, and I still am not hearing why not to pursue an ordinance. So that's my ask. Please reconsider an ordinance. Resident, mother, neighbor, friend, I hope. Please reconsider. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dottie. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address council?
Diane Stadt, 401 in Cleveland. I'm here basically for the same thing. As most of you know, I am a lifelong resident of St. Bernard, and I have 5 kids here, including one of them, my son, who is gay. Growing up here in St. Bernard, my son received his share of snide remarks from kids about his sexuality, but all in all, he had a pretty good childhood here. No one would have dared discriminate against him when he was looking for housing here, and that is because they knew his great-grandparents, his grandparents, his parents, his aunts and uncles. I've always said you don't ever talk about anyone here in St. Bernard because you never know who they could be related to. I'm sorry. But times have changed, and we are becoming a more diverse community, and it's no longer the everybody knows everybody world that we grew up in, and that's a good thing. When it comes to discrimination of the LGBTQ community, I'm not naive enough to think that the same folks who couldn't discriminate against my son because of his roots here would not think twice to discriminate against anyone else. You had an ordinance that was designed to protect people, and from what I'm seeing, you've decided that you're not going to pursue that. And the comment is that, people will be afraid to speak up against it. Well, I don't care if they're afraid to speak up against it. I'm here to speak for it. These are exactly the people that this ordinance was meant for. They will be discriminated because they are closed-minded and they know they can get away with it because of the good old boy mentality here in St. Bernard. St. Bernard is starting to make a comeback, evidenced by the sale of houses and the new phases we are seeing in the neighborhood. And we should want to be more welcoming to the community, and that means don't discriminate against race, creed, or sexual orientation. Please think long and hard about the community you want to live in. Do you really want to send the message to your citizens and potential citizens that you're not welcome here? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stat. Is there anybody else in the audience?
Hello, my name is Melanie Quallen. I live at 4918 Greenlee. I just shot you an email, by the way, and Mayor Stuchel, thank you. I don't have as much to say, but I would like to echo what Ms. Kelly has stated and both of the ladies before me. I very much support a non-discrimination order or ordinance for our community, and I hope that you all can listen to what everyone has to say and realize that we are becoming a more diverse community. And I've been here for 13 years, and I like being a part of that. I'm also a small business owner in the community of Northside, right next door, and I very much agree with what Ms. Kelly brought up about all of the small businesses throughout Ohio who see the advantages of having a non-discrimination ordinance for the community in which that business exists. So that's my 2 cents, and I hope you all can reconsider. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address?
Hi, good evening. My name is Sean Pratt. I live at 551 Church Street. I come here today, like some of my folks that just preceded me, to talk about the NDO. And I really just want to express my disappointment in the actions of council related to that NDO. Of course, it should go without saying, for the reasons that were aptly stated by Ms. Kelly and others, that I'm disappointed that council failed to pass the NDO or even bring it to a vote. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of the NDO that's equally disappointing to me. You see, when the idea of the NDO was first proposed at council, I really didn't think it was going to go anywhere. It was clear that members of council at the time, and I think the LCC committee specifically, were indifferent, maybe even outright hostile to the idea. Even when the committee finally took the matter up after many months, I fully expected it to be squashed pretty quickly. Instead, what I saw, and what gave me hope, was I saw over the course of about a year, that committee really shift their attitude from one of indifference to ambivalence to acceptance, and finally what looked like engagement, full engagement and support. It took a lot of advocacy to get there, both from people within the community, people from outside the community. It took a lot of education to get there. But at the end, toward, I guess, this last winter, it really looked like the committee was making a serious effort to craft a solid ordinance. There was robust discussion of the purpose and the guiding principles of an NDO, how mediation would form the core of resolving complaints, but also how to provide for escalating penalties in case of repeated discrimination. I saw a serious debate around the mechanics of how they would select a commission, vet a commission. Saw that they invited outside experts, Equality Ohio, for example, and representatives from peer communities who had also passed their own NDOs to help guide the process. All of this gave me a lot of hope that St. Bernard would soon join the growing number of communities that recognize the need for this kind of civil rights protection. As they wrapped up their drafting phase and turned their attention to planning for public engagement sessions, again, I felt very hopeful. The fact that they had crafted this ordinance, were ready to talk to the community, engage with the community, explain what this was all about, really gave me a lot of hope. Unfortunately, after what looked like a good faith effort for over a year, to prepare for that very moment, the committee did a complete 180 within days of this being publicized a little bit more broadly. They cited concerns from the community, despite not having any public engagement sessions, that largely related to situations that explicitly wouldn't be governed by the ordinance at hand. Things like private expressions of support for first responders and the police, for example, or aspects that the committee had spent a good deal of time resolving during their drafting that would be fully within the control of council, things like ensuring that a proposed commission was fully vetted. I can't know the minds of the committee or council, but to all appearances, from anybody looking from the outside, it would look like a group that worked for a year to come up with an ordinance did not have the courage to stand up for that very same ordinance with their community. It's mystifying and really, really disappointing. So I urge council to revisit their decision to table the ordinance. Please engage with the full community. Please consider why our neighboring communities have chosen to provide these kind of protections. Please consider how it reflects on our community, a community that is seeking to attract new residents, to not have such protections. Finally, please do not think that paying lip service to civil rights by passing a completely toothless resolution fools any of the people who cross this village line every day and immediately lose the protections that they enjoy in other communities. People working here, living here, and just visiting deserve better.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience?
Aaron Statt, 567 Rose Hill. I just want to put a face to the LGBT community. I am a gay member of the community, son of Diane, and very proud to be the son of Diane Statt. But I would definitely implore you to take a second look at passing an ordinance, something with some grit, with some teeth, that mentioned earlier. Very proud to be a lifelong resident of St. Bernard and very happy to continue to stay here. But we need to attract young talent, quality people of all races, creeds, religions, and sexual orientation and gender identity. We're a beautiful community, we're growing, and we need to keep growing. And so I definitely please implore you to think about passing an ordinance versus a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address council?
Hi, I'm Nicole Klungel. I live at 551 Church Street. Y'all have heard a lot from me already, but there's one thing we really haven't addressed. And I'm going to give you just a little bit of background on where I'm coming from on this. I've gotten really involved in various activities locally and at other levels of government protecting civil rights. And I'm just going to come right out and say it. I've been wrong a lot. I have been wrong so many times, and it's been really embarrassing, super embarrassing. Like, lie awake at 2 o'clock in the night thinking, oh my God, I can't even really believe that I said that thing. But I've always been willing to be corrected. And that is how I know that my desire to protect civil rights for other people who are different than me, whose experiences are not mine, I'm willing to listen to those people, and I'm willing to let them correct me. In fact, I invite them to do so, because nobody has everything right all the time. It's just not a thing that humans do. It takes some humility to do that. And I think that it really helps to judge the sincerity of other people when they come to you with feedback, knowing whether they are willing to be wrong, knowing whether they are willing to be corrected, and knowing whether they are willing to listen. I don't think that true advocates of civil rights say things like, I will sue the village if this law applies to me. And as I understand it, that was said to you although it did not show up in the minutes. Why would we roll over for that kind of bully? I know that a lot of the complaints about the non-discrimination ordinance have been registered as not complaints about protecting civil rights, but about the mechanism to do so. People who truly engage in protecting civil rights don't say things like, I don't trust my neighbors to judge me. They say, how can I be involved in making sure this works? I don't know how to explain to you the sniff test, but when somebody says in the same breath, we are already a welcoming community, this ordinance is divisive, do you see that those things are mutually incompatible? I hope you do. I hope that prompts some cognitive dissonance there. Can we not pretend that the people who came to you with complaints about this ordinance were sincere in their desire to protect civil rights? Let's not pretend that's the case, because it isn't. It is up to you not to roll over, but to protect every single one of your residents. That is your responsibility as public servants, and you have failed. Please fix it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience?
Thank you, Mayor, Madam President, and members of the council for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm Jen Scott. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Southwest Ohio Regional Organizer for Equality Ohio, our statewide LGBTQ advocacy and education organization. We at Equality Ohio have been following the work of the Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee with interest in drafting a non-discrimination ordinance. We applaud the work and leadership of that committee and their desire to create a community and a culture that is welcoming to everyone, including the LGBTQ+ community. It's our hope that this council will one day vote on a law that matches that vision. As we heard earlier from Representative Kelly, it is still generally legal to fire someone, deny them housing or access to public goods and services simply because of who they are or whom they love. That's right, it's the year 2021, and sexual orientation, who someone loves, and gender identity, who they are, can be used as the sole reason to discriminate against someone. As an organization, it is our mission to ensure that Ohio is a place everyone can call home, regardless of their sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression. We believe that people have the right to be recognized and celebrated for who they are and what they're capable of, not stereotyped, feared, or denied basic human rights. While we are encouraged that Council will potentially be considering passing a resolution in support of the LGBTQ community, members of your community can and will continue to face discrimination until legal protections are in place. In the past 5 years, Ohio has gone from 14 municipalities with these protections to 1 county and 33 cities. Galleon passed last week. We hope that one day St. Bernard will be able to join that list. And I'm available at any time to answer questions the council may have about the ordinance or the resolution. I can be reached at jen@equalityohio.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Yes, Ms. Brickway.
I'm glad you're here because I was going to ask you the question. Because I'm going to be very honest. I'm for the resolution. I'm not for the ordinance until all the quirks get worked out. But in the meantime, I'm sorry. I don't agree with you. When you said it's toothless, I think it's a welcoming thing to people. So I think it's a first start to do the resolution. But I keep hearing over and over all these cases and all these people being discriminated against. And you gave some numbers last time of the people that actually, and I can't remember them. Do you happen?
I didn't bring them tonight. They're
Okay, okay, and I don't want to quote you because I don't remember, but I remember when you gave them, I was shocked at how low it was. Like maybe 5 and 30 years or something, or
yeah,
something like that. So there's where my thing is, and I'm glad Nicole has a lot of support here from all of her friends today, and I understand that, and that's great, and it's great to hear the other side. But the other side of it, and I am the one that said I didn't see a need for the ordinance, that I do believe St. Bernard's a welcoming community, and I'll stand behind that to this day. That doesn't mean I'm racist. It doesn't mean I judge people. I think we're a very welcoming community. And when I hear that there's hardly any cases that have been filed, I get a little confused on the urgency of the need right now until it's all worked out and to possibly see if the state passes it at that level. So that's where I'm a little confused. You know, when there's 5 cases in 30 years, but people are telling me that there's all these cases in St. Bernard.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. So the data she's referring to, as what I presented last time, was data that I had pulled from the Ohio Civil Rights Commission on currently protected classes at the state level. So race, disability, age, et cetera. And if you look at the data, and I apologize, I can send this later to council. In the 80s and 70s, there were a lot of cases, but as education and businesses were educated and trained their employees and were brought up to speed on things, the discrimination cases went down for the currently protected classes, and that's what we saw. So there's a couple things going on. Discrimination happens, we all know that. When businesses know better, they do better, whether it's a landlord or a restaurant or a hotel. That's just the way that works. So you can see in the data, and this was specific data to St. Bernard, like I said, there were a lot of cases, and then they started to taper off in the 90s. We would expect something similar to happen with LGBTQ and the other added class, which is natural hair for this particular draft of the ordinance. The real goal here is to educate the community and how to be welcoming and inclusive to everyone, educate businesses. So presenting the data and showing that there weren't that many claims in the past few years in St. Bernard was to counter one of the concerns that was brought up in the committee meetings, that this ordinance and forming a human rights commission would cost the village tens of thousands of dollars, in trying to give the impression that there was just going to be this flood of cases that came into the village, and that's just not accurate. You know, based on data that we have, you'll maybe see one every few years when it comes to LGBTQ protections, based on the size of the village.
Madam President?
Yes.
And I thank you for that information, and I understand what you're saying, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying and what I'm hearing from people in St. Bernard. I get a lot of phone calls, and I have a lot of people stop me on the street, because I'm going to be honest, they even tell me they're not going to email me it. They're afraid if they say they're against this, that they're going to be labeled or considered racist. But the majority of the people that I have spoken to, just the majority, not all of them, don't see the need, that they like the idea of the resolution and maybe look into it if it's needed. But everybody's allowed to have a say in this. I mean, every resident. And so we do have to listen to both sides. But a lot of people did comment on your numbers, and that's why. I understand that you're explaining that we're not going to have a lot of money, but it also tells me there weren't a lot of cases too. I mean, it's a number. I'm the auditor. I look at numbers. That's not saying there's not discrimination, because like you said, we all know it's out there, and we have to do our best to stop it. But I personally, and this is personally just my opinion, I feel like this is a divide, because I've seen such a divide it's caused already in our community. I've seen people arguing over this over and over. And to me, we've divided already. So I would like to just, at this point, ask council hopefully to pass the resolution, and we can continue to look at it. Because I don't believe the resolution's nothing. I don't. I really don't. I think of a government, when you sign something and you say we're welcoming, that is welcoming. I don't have to have a 3-person committee member be able to judge who is or who isn't at this point. That's just my personal opinion, and I would encourage council to continue with the resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Brickway. Thank you, Jen.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address council?
Hello, Katie Joyce, 4412 Tower Avenue. I'm a registered voter. I vote in every election. Haven't missed one since I was allowed, I think. 8-year resident transplant here to St. Bernard. I am a parent, homeowner, taxpayer. I'm here to stand in support of the non-discrimination order. I'd urge you to be proactive with our words and pens, and specifically spell out that we are inclusive and forbid the exclusion of individuals on the basis of their membership in one of these groups. The discrimination order has value as a solid example of how we operate. There's nothing wrong with a statement of welcome, but I don't think it's a fair swap for the order that creates the structure for mediation and an office to handle complaints. By not taking a firm stand against discrimination, we're inadvertently condoning it. Diversity makes us stronger, and then I want to end with a quote that I really like. At the end of the day, I'd rather be excluded because of who I include than included for who I exclude. Reverend Eston Williams. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address council? So I would just like to say a couple things. As chair of the Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee, we had 10 meetings on this ordinance, and I learned a lot, and it was excellent information. I don't believe by not passing the ordinance or not putting the ordinance out on the table and doing a resolution is not condoning discrimination at all. That was not the purpose of that. There was many other questions that came into being with the financial piece of it. It also came into question about the Human Rights Commission and their participation and what that would do for the community of who was maybe subjected or been presented as being discriminatory. And even if they found that they weren't discriminatory in that commission, there could be some identification that has been hurtful, whether they were a landlord or if they were a business owner. So there was many things that came up about that ordinance over time. And so again, I don't think it was for not to have all those meetings and really learn a lot about the ordinance, but it in no way, shape, or form said that we don't support non-discrimination, because we are a welcoming community. And I feel like that, and I know the other people on the committee feel like that. Is there anybody else that would like to address council?
Is it okay if I speak again?
Sure.
So again, Amy Dottie, 220 McClellan. I kind of want to address a couple of comments that Ms. Bettinghouse and Ms. Brickwag just made. It's one thing to be a resident, especially a lifelong resident, a city employee, village employee, and say, yeah, we're welcoming, especially if one is straight or straight passing or white and doesn't have, we're allowed to wear natural hair, that kind of thing. But it's easy to say that when we're the ones who aren't discriminated against. We have residents, like I said, we have residents and we have students in the schools here that are gay, that are, that do face this discrimination against. Well, that's not acceptable hair. And these are just two of the examples, but we have adult residents who grew up gay here, and it's not fair for us to say that we are a welcoming community to them. We have to show them. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address council? Anybody from council? Okay. So what is council's pleasure on the excused absence of the member?
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. DeBerke?
Make a motion to excuse the absent member.
Second that.
So Mr. DeBerke motioned and Patty Hausfeld second that the excused member or the member that is not here is excused. The next committee of the whole meeting will be held on 10/14, and we will go into executive session. Oh, sorry. We'll vote on the excused member.
Mr. DeBerke. Aye. Mr. Ray Culberson.
Aye.
Mr. Schultmar.
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culberson.
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse.
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld.
Aye.
Okay. At 6 ayes and no nays, so that member has been approved to be absent. So we will go into executive session right now.